situation off the coast of Venezuela is not good. It is a bad situation. It appears that Trump is threatening Venezuela. They already destroyed a fishing boat, and that boat they claimed was smuggling drugs. But if that was the case, they would have grabbed it and they would have arrested the people on board and then used the evidence to make their case that Venezuela is a drug country, right? If that was really a drug running boat, they would have used it for evidence, because there is absolutely no evidence that Venezuela is a serious part of the international drug cartels, as they are claiming. All kinds of studies of the drug problem of South and Central America have been conducted. Are there drugs in Venezuela? Sure. But 70% of the cocaine and drugs in Central America, Latin America, comes from Colombia. And there is absolutely no reason that they would need to go through Venezuela after producing it in Colombia. And all kinds of studies have shown that Venezuela is very inconsequential in the drug trade. And it just doesn't add up. And the Office of the United Nations Drug and Law and Crime Enforcement has said Venezuela is inconsequential. All kinds of people that are not fans of Maduro by any means have said the excuse they're using, that supposedly Venezuela is a drug running country, is a narco state, that is absurd. It does not match reality. This is just Trump doing a favor to Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is our Secretary of State. And Marco Rubio vehemently disagrees with U.S. policy right now because Trump is pivoting slightly in a good direction. And there is a big effort to cancel that out. And it appears Trump is doing this as a favor to Marco Rubio. And we should absolutely hope that this doesn't escalate any further. And I've seen the reports, that Venezuela is obviously threatened by these ships being there. There's Venezuelan jets that have flown out there. But the fact that they sunk that ship, and they didn't arrest the people on board, they didn't grab the ship and use it for evidence, that right there tells you that is 100% confirmation that everything they're saying about the drugs is bullshit. Because if that ship had a shred of evidence on it that Venezuela was a narco state, what would they have done? They would have grabbed it and used that evidence. They don't have any evidence to back up their claims about Venezuela being a narco state. They don't, right? The narco state is Colombia, where U.S.-backed paramilitaries have been involved in the drug trade for years. The narco states are Guatemala and El Salvador and Honduras. But the U.S. government has been funding drug cartels in that region for quite some time. And it's been funding them against anti-imperialist and revolutionary governments. And according to the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, the best country when it comes to wiping out the power of drug cartels is Cuba. And Cuba is Venezuela's close partner. It's also a close partner of Nicaragua. Cuba is the country in the region when it comes to abolishing the drug cartels, the crime syndicates. They have the best record. There is no drug cartels in Cuba. The Cuban government has wiped them out. So if anything, what the U.S. government should be doing is trying to help Cuba, have the Cuban police go train the Venezuelan police, have the Cuban police go train the Colombian and the police of different countries. And in fact, Ecuador, which is now pretty solidly under the U.S. domination after a recent stolen election, where the election was stolen from the anti-imperialists, Ecuador is seeing the drug trade flourish as a result of U.S. meddling and U.S. destabilization efforts. So the idea that the USA is targeting Venezuela because of the drug trade, that's not reality. That is not reality at all. And this is simply a ruse, and I am disgusted by it. And I have walked the streets of Venezuela, of Caracas. I have been to different neighborhoods in Venezuela. And I have seen the great results of the Bolivarian revolution in Latin America. And I've seen what socialism, what the Bolivarian socialist revolution has done. They've taken control of their natural resources, their oil, and they've utilized their oil to wipe out illiteracy, to electrify the country, to build housing, etc. They've done amazing things. And actually, I have quite a bit of content on this YouTube channel about Venezuela if you'd like to see it. I made a playlist, the Venezuela playlist of all the videos I have done about Venezuela. I've done quite a bit, so check it out if you're interested in seeing what I have done. I've been to Venezuela, interviewed people in Venezuela. I've given talks at universities about Venezuela. I am somebody who knows what I'm talking about. I have seen with my own eyes what Venezuela has done and what the achievements of the Bolivarian process in the country are. And I encourage you to check out my Venezuela playlist. Also, I've written a lot about Venezuela. So I even have a book that I've written. If you want to see that book is available. It's called The Siege Has Failed. And it highlights the victory of Venezuela after Barack Hussein Obama tried to just squeeze them out with a color revolution, the La Salida campaign. I have a book that I wrote compiling all my articles about Venezuela. It's called The Siege Has Failed. That is the name of my book about Venezuela. So, we are solidly on the side of the Venezuelan people against these latest provocations. The Center for Political Innovation, we put on our website an article, CIA and MI6 are the drug dealers, not Venezuela. Now, my feeling, and based on the assessment of this situation, my feeling is that what's going on in Venezuela right now, the buildup by the U.S. Navy is simply throwing a bone to Marco Rubio. I do not believe that Donald Trump is serious about actually invading Venezuela. And the reason for that is that he pulled out of the Red Sea. As soon as it was clear that there would be a body count of U.S. soldiers in the Red Sea, Donald Trump pulled U.S. forces out. He was not willing to actually take on the Houthis militarily. And that makes me think he doesn't want the same thing. And in Venezuela, they have Bolivarian militias, these big armed groups that are in every neighborhood, and in every neighborhood, they are supporting the Venezuelan government. They have armed groups that practice and train militarily. I don't know where right wingers get this notion. Socialism is when you take everyone's guns away. Venezuela has guns everywhere. There are guns all over Venezuela. I mean, I don't know where people get this. Oh, Venezuela, Cuba, they take everyone's guns. You go to Venezuela, they've got armed militias. They've got an army that's trained in Cuba. I'll show you a picture, right, of the Bolivarian militias. These are regular. They have a military that's trained in Cuba, but on top of that, they've got these are Joe Six-Pack, heavy-set guys, right? They got beer bellies. They're, hardworking guys who live in their neighborhood. But on the weekends, they go to rifle practice. They go to rifle practice with their buddies, and they talk about communist ideology. These are people in Venezuela, ordinary people who've been trained how to use a gun to defend their homeland, right? And there's over 1 million. I believe there's 4 million people that are part of the Bolivarian militia. And I tell you, if the U.S. troops go into Venezuela, these guys are going to be on their roofs. They're going to be up in the mountains. It's a very mountainous country. They are going to be on their roofs. They're going to be up in the mountains, and they are going to be sniping away. And there is going to be loads of American soldiers that come home in body bags, and that should not happen, because what in the world is there to defend us from in Venezuela? I mean, what in the world would we be fighting for? They're trying to say we're fighting the drug problem. Well, the drug problem in the United States comes from those big pharma corporations that pushed doctors to overprescribe opioids and get our kids addicted to heroin. That's where the drug problem comes from. It comes from the pharmaceutical industrial complex that went around all throughout the 90s, all throughout the early 2000s, telling doctors, oh, it's okay to give people dangerous painkillers. Get them addicted, get them addicted. You can watch all kinds of documentaries about where our opioid epidemic came from. It did not come from Venezuela. It did not come from Venezuela. Not at all. It didn't come from Venezuela. It came from Sackler. It came from big pharma corporations, and that's where it came from, right? And the heroin of the world, it doesn't come from Latin America. Heroin comes from Afghanistan. And 1/4 of the world's heroin supply comes from Afghanistan. And they had completely wiped it out when the Taliban was in there the first time. But the heroin trade of Afghanistan blossomed after the U.S. occupation and through the 20 years the USA was occupying Afghanistan, the world market was flooded with heroin because Afghanistan is the center of the poppy fields, right? In South and Central America, the drug problem is cocaine, right? And they ain't making cocaine in Venezuela, and they're making cocaine in Colombia, and there's absolutely no reason to ship it through Venezuela. Venezuela is inconsequential in the global drug trade. And the idea that they would send Americans to go get shot in Venezuela and get killed over the lie that Venezuela is the cause of our drug problem. You know, why don't they arrest some CEOs of the big pharmaceutical companies? Why don't they arrest, John Bolton and Elliot Abrams and the people that were involved in funding the drug trade, right? Why don't they arrest the CIA that was openly funding drug cartels in Latin America in a war against the Sandinistas in Nicaragua, right? You go look at the history, right? There is absolutely the idea that fighting the Bolivarian government of Venezuela is some kind of anti-drug operation is bullshit. What is happening off the coast of Venezuela right now is very scary. And the Venezuelan people need our all-out support. And we need to talk to our coworkers. We need to talk to our neighbors. We need to talk to our classmates and our friends and our family members and make clear that Venezuela is not a threat to America in any way. The drug dealers are in Langley and the CIA. The drug dealers are the big bankers on Wall Street, the British Empire that waged 2 opium wars to force drugs onto China. That facilitates the drug trade through the international banks and their international banking system. That is the threat of drugs. The drug threat does not come from a socialist country with lots of oil in South America. That's not where the threat of drugs comes from. And we need to make that absolutely clear. And we need to scream that from the top of our lungs. And I do not believe Trump is going to go all into Venezuela. But it could happen. I don't know, right? This administration has done many awful things, and we have to be there for Venezuela as loudly as we possibly can. We have to stand with Venezuela. We have to denounce the lies, this drug cartel bullshit, these lies that they are using. We got to denounce it, right? Venezuela is not a narco state. Venezuela is not responsible for the drug crisis in America. That's a load of poppycock. And let's hope that these stupid provocations can end, and as a result, we'll see them pull back, because I can tell you we would be biting off more than we can chew, right? America is not ready to go in with boots on the ground into Venezuela. They've tried coup attempt after coup attempt after coup attempt, and go and watch my playlist, right? I have covered it. I've shown it. They have tried to overthrow the Venezuelan government so many times, and they won't budge because they have a very solid base of support. And I've been to the communes of Central Caracas. I have seen the solid base of support. Look, folks, Venezuela is a democratic country where they bend over backwards to accommodate the opposition, the pro-U.S. people. They tell us Venezuela is a dictatorship. Well, I've been to Venezuela. I was there in 2015. I saw people that didn't like Maduro running around denouncing Maduro left and right. I saw churches that support Israel with Israeli flags. The majority of the people there, yes, are anti-imperialist, are Marxists, socialists, Christian socialists, mind you, right? Abortion is illegal in Venezuela. Did you know that? Abortion is actually illegal in Venezuela. Gay marriage is actually illegal in Venezuela. And the leader, the president, Nicolas Maduro, is a Roman Catholic. And so was his predecessor, Hugo Chavez. They're not woke in Venezuela. They're anti-imperialists, right? They're innovationists. They're city builders. They're not woke, right? Venezuela, I mean, I've been there. I've seen it. They have a very solid base of support. If you want to see dictatorship, look at Britain right now. In Britain, they are dragging people to jail. I don't know if you saw this. In Britain, there's this group called Palestine Action, which is a Palestinian organization that has done some illegal stuff. And they've declared them a terrorist group, and they've made it a crime to have any sign supporting Palestine Action. So thousands of people have been getting arrested one by one for holding a sign that says, "I support Palestine Action." I don't know if you saw this. All kinds of people, they simply hold up a sign that says, "I support Palestine Action," dragged to jail on terrorism charges. Can you believe this? Right? And it is absolutely ridiculous. That's America. right? That's the United Kingdom. That's a country that's part of the free world. That's the center of the British Empire, the home of the London Stock Exchange, part of the NATO alliance. So, you know, and in Venezuela, people criticize Maduro all the time. They run in elections, all kinds of stuff. They've actually bent over backwards to accommodate the opposition to Maduro, right? Very good quotation. Yeah, Jimmy Carter observed the elections in Venezuela, and he said they were completely legitimate. And I've been there and I've seen it, and you know, the idea that Venezuela should be overthrown and that we have anything to gain from American troops and American, you know, money and weapons being used to overthrow Venezuela is just absolutely a joke. And I just want to, I can't hammer that point home enough. And that we need to be there for Venezuela as loudly as we possibly can be.